The United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization is a specialized agency of the United Nations aimed at promoting world peace and security through international cooperation in education, the sciences, and culture. It has 193 member states and 11 associate members, as well as partners in the non-governmental, intergovernmental, and private sector. Headquartered in Paris, France, UNESCO has 53 regional field offices and 199 national commissions that facilitate its global mandate. UNESCO was founded in 1945 as the successor to the League of Nations International Committee on Intellectual Cooperation. Its constitution establishes the agency goals, governing structure, and operating framework. UNESCO's founding mission, which was shaped by the Second World War, is to advance peace, sustainable development and human rights by facilitating collaboration and dialogue among nations. It pursues this objective through 5 major program areas: education, natural sciences, social, human sciences, culture and communication, information. UNESCO sponsors projects that improve literacy, provide technical training and education, advance science, protect independent media and press freedom, preserve regional and cultural history, and promote cultural diversity. As a focal point for world culture and science, UNESCO's activities have broadened over the years to include assisting in the translating and disseminating of world literature, establishing international cooperation agreements to secure World Heritage Sites of cultural and natural importance, defending human rights, bridging the worldwide digital divide, and creating inclusive knowledge societies through information and communication. UNESCO has launched several initiatives and global movements, such as Education for All, to further advance its core objectives. UNESCO is governed by the General Conference, composed of member states and associate members, which meets biannually to set the agency programs and the budget. It also elects members of the Executive Board, which manages UNESCO's work, and appoints every 4 years Director General, who serves as UNESCO's Chief Administrator. UNESCO is a member of the United Nations Sustainable Development Group, a coalition of UN agencies and organizations aimed at fulfilling the Sustainable Development Goals. UNESCO and its mandate for international cooperation can be traced back to a League of Nations resolution on the 21st of September 1921. To elect a commission to study the feasibility of having nations freely share of culture, education and scientific achievements. This new body, the International Committee on Intellectual Cooperation, was then created in Paris on the 9th of August 1925, to act as the executing agency for the ICIC. However, the onset of World War II largely interrupted the work of these predecessor organizations. As for private initiatives, the International Bureau of Education began to work as a non-governmental organization in the service of international educational development since December 1925 and joined UNESCO in 1969. After having established a joint commission in 1952, after the signing of the Atlantic Charter and the Declaration of the United Nations, the Conference of Allied Ministers of Education was convened in London the 1st to the 16th of November 1945 with 44 governments represented. The idea of UNESCO was largely developed by Rub Butler, the Minister of Education for the United Kingdom, who had a great deal of influence in its development. At the CONF, the Constitution of UNESCO was introduced and signed by 37 countries, and a Preparatory Commission was established. The Preparatory Commission operated between the 16th of November 1945 and the 4th of November 1946, the date when UNESCO's constitution came into force with the deposit of the 20th ratification by a member state. The first General Conference took place from the 19th of November to the 10th of December 1946, and elected Dr. Julian Huxley to Director General. The Constitution was amended in November 1954 when the General Conference resolved that members of the Executive Board would be representatives of the governments of the states of which they are nationals and would not, as before, act in their personal capacity. This change in governance distinguished UNESCO from its predecessor, the ICHIC, in how member states would work together in the organization's fields of competence. As member states worked together over time to realize UNESCO's mandate, political and historical factors have shaped the organization's operations, in particular during the Cold War, the decolonization process, and the dissolution of the USSR. Among the major achievements of the organization is its work against racism, for example through influential statements on race, starting with the Declaration of Anthropologists and Other Scientists in 1950 and concluding with the 1978 Declaration on Race and Racial Prejudice. In 1956, the Republic of South Africa withdrew from UNESCO, saying that some of